available to anybody who was not able to listen in live today. So it will be available on our website, and we'll email the link to everybody so you have it sort of to listen to again if you forget anything along the way. That being said, if you have any really specific questions about a project you're working on that you might want to sort of keep off of a recorded webinar on the website, you're more than welcome to contact us at any time, and you can, we'll give you our contact information at the end. So it's also on our website all the time.
Great. So the National Dance Project is now 23 years old. It was launched in 1996 to support the creation and touring of new dance works throughout through our grant making and other activity. And we encourage you to learn about our other programs, which are on our website. And we've had some recent changes in the last few years, and that those came about through our Moving Dance Forward report, which was a report over 20 years of the National Dance Project. Today we're going to really specifically hone in on our major grant program, which is the Production Grant, and it annually supports the creation and touring of 20 new dance works.
And it is all done with the generous support of our funders, the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. And we thank them often for their support.
Absolutely. So there will be 20 projects at the end that will receive NDP support, and these grants are made to professional choreographers or companies to support the creation and United States touring of new dance works. So your projects may tour outside of the United States, and that's wonderful. However, we are only able to fund the touring that happens within the United States. This happens through a package of support. It includes up to $45,000 that you can ask for the creation and production for new work. Approximately $10,000 additionally is given in general operating support dollars, and then $35,000 is reserved for the touring of that work once it is created and you're ready to do your tour. And that is paid out through presentation grants, which we will get to. And this tour funding supports artist fees, including travel costs, and it's allocated again by the artist and the company to eligible touring sites via presentation grants.
So that first sort of package of support, which goes towards the creation of your new work, that is the $45,000 that can be used towards the development of the new work. Additionally, the $10,000 that we're able to offer to each project that is based in the United States is that $10,000 in general operating support. Unfortunately, that is not available to international companies at this time, but that general operating support is unrestricted funding that can be used for a multitude of things like rent, insurance, extra travel. It can go back towards the project, savings, a tour coordinator. These are just some examples of how people have used it in the past. Mm-hmm.
So again, the tour funding is reserved, and that is up to $35,000. It is allocated by the artist or your representative or agent, and it's distributed directly to the presenter through the presentation grant process. And a tour coordinator may be an agent or a manager, a company manager, or it could be the artists themselves. So we've had many people serve in that role.
So those $35,000 that are reserved in funding for the U.S. tour of the project, there is a 24-month window starting in January of 2020, so the year following the award, through just the end of the year 2022, that those funds are available to be distributed to presenting organizations in the U.S.
Right. So going back to the grant plan, for the artists that are applying, you must be a professional choreographer company. You must be proposing a new work to be developed. So that work can be in an early stage, or it can be a little bit later on in the stage of creation, but it is not for work that has already been created and premiered. You must have a nonprofit status, or you must have a nonprofit fiscal sponsor. You can submit or appear in only one application by choreographer or company. So for instance, if you have your own company, you can submit for that. But if there's another company that is having you come and set work on them, both of those applications would not be able to come in at this round. So you'll have to decide which one if you're in that situation. You must work with a U.S. Organizational partner for the development and or the presentation of the new work. You must be planning to tour the new work to multiple locations in the United States and within, again, an 18-month window following the creation of the work. And you will need to fulfill the requirements and reports if awarded.
A few quick notes about the eligibility. International artists and companies are eligible to apply, though preference is given to US-based artists and companies. As Sherry was saying, the work can be in the early stages of development. It can be just about ready to premiere, so long as it's not premiering before September of this year, so September 2019. The work should be new, so you should be able to explain how this is a new work. If it is a restaging, a resurgence of a previous work, the panel will want to know why it is relevant at this time and what is changing about it that it will appear to be a very different experience than perhaps previously. And projects can be interdisciplinary, so they can include many artistic forms and expressions, not just dance.
So applicants who aren't eligible would be artists that are already currently in a creation period with an NDP Production Grant, or if you're still touring with NDP support through 2019. If you're an artist and you received 2 cycles in a row, i.e. production, and then you toured, and another production grant, and you toured with NDP support, you would need to take a cycle off or 2 years off. Any school, youth, or student companies and groups are not eligible. If you're an artist and you're self-producing your tour, as opposed to coming in and working with an organizational partner and applying for these funds, that is not eligible. And if you are an artist with an overdue grantee report to NEFA, come see myself or Kristen about trying to help that last piece happen. And again, a production grant cycle includes the creation period and extends through the touring period. And if you aren't sure of your eligibility status, please reach out to us soon, within the next week or so we can kind of help you prior to the March 1 deadline.
So next we're going to get into the application criteria that the panelists are evaluating each application through. First, they are evaluating the application through NEFA's Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Statement, which is posted here. It's in various places on our website. So as they're looking at the criteria, looking at each application through the criteria, they're also keeping this in mind. So the criteria that they will be looking at are: the works support the creation and touring, the program supports the creation and touring of new dance works that demonstrate excellence in artist practice, and support work that contributes to the cultural and aesthetic diversity of today's field.
And also to offer the potential to deepen engagement with communities as the result of the artistic practice and the content of the work.
Sorry, nope.
Okay.
Sorry, just the potential to deepen engagement with audiences and communities. That was from last year.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
typo on our side. And finally, the last two criteria: nurture meaningful partnerships between the artist company and at least one U.S. organizational partner involved in the development or presentation of the work, and develop a viable, appropriate strategy for touring the new work to multiple communities in the U.S. and its territories. So, getting into some of the criteria a little deeper.
Sure. For the organizational partner overview, we really define an organizational partner. The partner needs to be in the United States, a nonprofit organization who you have a working relationship with this organization, and they're committed to providing support for the creation or the touring of proposed new work. This can happen through administrative guidance or support, marketplace advocacy, tour planning assistance, leveraging of additional funds for the project. They might be serving as a fiscal sponsor or agent. Also perhaps offering residency space, audiences for work in progress showings, and again, they might be presenting the work, when you are ready to tour it. You might have more than one partner who's helping you in this way. We ask you for this form to kind of list one in that category, and then you can speak about the other support that you're receiving in your timeline or in your project outline.
And an organizational partner certainly does not have to provide all of these. They may be providing support in other ways. This is just a few examples that we have seen in the past. Does this feel like a good spot to pause for questions? So you should be able to unmute yourself if you have a question that you'd like to ask. You can also feel free to type it into the chat box, which you can find. It's in the, I think it's in the more section of the bar that comes across the screen. There's an option for chat if you have any questions.
Really? Hello? Hello? Hello, I have a question. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, yeah, this is Bernard Schmidt calling. I'm reading the organizational partner overview segment, and this would be for a project by a France-based dance company, which is actually a company Hervé Koubi, which received funding from NIF on various types of grants before, but I see that most of the support that organizational partner would provide kind of really only relates to a partner that's based in the US. So that's the kind of support that is here listed is not the one support that would be provided by the presenting partners, correct?
Bernard, I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking, but
I know the application is going to ask for presenting partners, correct? 3 at the end, correct?
Later on, if you are moved to the second round, we do ask for 3 sites for that application. This application.
Right. So at first you want to hear about 2 presenting partners, like 2 presenters, correct?
No, there are 3 that are asked for in the second application, but we're trying to focus right now on the first application, the inquiry, at which time we do need to have an organizational partner that is US based.
Okay, so that be a presenter.
It might
a presenter is, for example, the Spiro Festival, Titus in Dallas, Whitebird in Portland, Oregon. Can they be organizational partners?
Yes, they could be an organizational partner. And I'm happy to have a conversation with you, maybe within the next couple of days, if that would work for you.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, by email or by phone.
We'll have a phone conversation.
Okay, so I send you an email, right? correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
What this is trying to sort of ensure is that the project, if it is an international company, will be able to tour throughout the US. That's pretty much what the panel is trying to answer with this question, if you think about it in that way. A few written in questions. Question about, whoop, where'd it go? My scroll is not working, 1 second. If you're using a fiscal sponsor, do you put down that the company is non-profit on the form? No, I don't think that you would have to, if you're using a fiscal sponsor, that information at this stage of the application, I don't think you need to include that. If you do move forward, you would include the fiscal sponsor in the payee section. And that's how that would be clarified. Do we need to have an idea of how many potential presenting partners we might have to tour? It's good to have an idea at this stage in the process. As we were saying, you won't be asked to list them just yet. In the full application, you will have to be able to demonstrate that you've had conversations with at least 3 organizations in the US that would be interested in touring the piece, presenting the piece on tour, but not at this moment. But it is good to start to think about that.
If you have any of that information at this point, again, especially if they are conversations and that you're having, you can kind of put that into your in parts of your narrative that would help support that there's interest in the work.
The next question is there a list we should refer to for qualified organizational partners that one should use, or is it open? We don't have a list. As long as they're based in the US and they're nonprofit, that would be considered qualified, quote unquote. And they don't have to be dance specific organizations. People work with a lot of different organizations in this area. We've seen museums, libraries, cultural organizations, social justice organizations. It doesn't have to be specifically related to dance, as long as you can show that they are providing some aspect of assistance in the development or in the touring.
Right. Yeah, and I think if you have any questions, again, you could reach out to Kristen or I prior to. Sometimes people have, a couple of different people they're working with, and they're trying to figure out where to list them, or sometimes talking it through is helpful. So you're welcome to do that if you have a question about that.
Can the organizational partner and fiscal sponsor be the same organization?
Yes.
Yes. Can you talk more about I can't read right now. Could you talk more about where we can talk about the other presenting partners in the application?
We're kind of getting there.
Yeah. We will go into the narrative questions in a little more detail, but it is there is a place for that in the narrative section. How do you define who is a professional choreographer?
I would say that I understand that there aren't a ton of opportunities to apply for grant funds. If you're a new kind of graduate out of school, this might not be the moment for this. I think it is. I will say it is a fairly competitive grant process. So the panel is going to want to see that you've had some experience creating and when I say producing work, that can be defined in different ways, but that you have experience making and touring work. Touring might be in a region. It doesn't necessarily mean national, but I think this particular opportunity is still looking for artists who've had that had some of that experience.
And we are not able to support students or youth organizations at this time. Organizational partner the lead applicant? Does the org partner share in funding with an artist company? No, they would not be the lead applicant. The lead applicant is the artist or company who is applying for the new work. They are just sort of listed in the application as a partner. If they share in the funding, that is not on our side. There will be no grant agreement between us and the organizational partner. It is only with us and the company that is creating the new work. If some of the grant goes to that organizational partner, that is up to the applicant. That is up to the organization, or sorry, to the artist. If we have premiered a 20-minute piece that we would like to expand into an evening-length piece, would this be applicable? What do you constitute as substantially different in developing a complete work from a shorter work?
Sure. I think that's a great question. You would definitely want to talk about, you know, kind of a little bit of making that first iteration of 20 minutes. And then this application is about where you want to move forward, how you see expanding it. As again, this grant is really for the production of a new work, or certainly an expansion of that work. So whether that's adding, you know, additional collaborators, really revisiting and expanding, or in some way deepening the content of it, and maybe talking about why you want to go from 20 minutes to full length. But again, some of this is kind of making a case or for it. So that would really come from your desire to expand this.
Mm-hmm. Is it safe to say that if the presenter is offering artist fees, the tour is not considered self-produced? Excuse me. Yes. What we're sort of looking for within that criteria is that in order for an organization to receive subsidy from us while the work is on tour, the artist needs to be paid by the organization, and then we reimburse the organization. So if you are if you are renting out a space to present your work, and then we are paying the space as well, that doesn't benefit you.
Right. So the idea is that the organization is bringing you and supporting you coming to their venue. So renting a house or getting a split deal or something like that is not that's not what we're funding. We're the subsidy that is paid out through presentation grants is to help the presenter help pay for some of those the artist's fees, but they're still responsible for if they have to rent the venue and for producing the work, you know, paying the crew, paying for all of the other marketing, all of those things that that would take you would not be paying for that. So I hope that answers that.
Are we looking specifically for national tours? How about a New England tour? Great.
So when we say national, I mean we mean, you know, let's just say you're from Texas. You know, a tour could be, you know, you can still tour within your home state, and then maybe you also go to Alabama and Mississippi. That would be a tour. So yes, you could be an artist and your tour takes place only in New England or only in you know, the West Coast. That's fine. But we hope that a tour would be at least 3 sites in at least 2 states. One of those could be your home state.
If you're an LLC, is there any way of applying for grants? Yes, you can absolutely apply for grants. We would just have to make the payments should you ultimately receive the award to a fiscal sponsor. At this time, we are only able to make payments to nonprofit or fiscal sponsors, which would be nonprofit. So you can still apply. Would a dance agent be considered an organizational partner?
I would say not really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's really, I would say this is one of those places where it's not just kind of checking a box that you have someone, that you have an organization that's, you know, agreeing to be this person on this form, the idea is that the organization is actually really providing support, that they have skin in the game of helping this work get made and or towards. So yeah, I don't know, I hope that helps, but the panel really does review these the relationship is part of the review process.
One of the presenting organizations be in your hometown. Yes, that's totally fine. Clarification from the earlier question, not a recent, just wasn't hired as. So not a recent graduate or young person, haven't been hired as a choreographer, no specific certification or titles. That's okay. Produced several shows locally with partial funding. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, is this Sarah who?
I'm not sure. Yes, it looks like that. And we can also maybe do some conversations offline as well to talk about more options.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do that. So we'll take that note. If we have created, toured, and performed a work in one iteration but want to expand and change it, would that qualify? I would say we might need to talk a little more about that and get a little more details.
Yes, exactly.
So
I think if you're unclear about any of your eligibility, please, I would reach out to Kristen or myself, Mrs. Sherry, and just, if you're not sure about the work partner, or if you're not sure about the status of the work, if it's eligible, feel free to contact us within the next few days. We'll be happy to be in touch with you.
We make 20 grants, but how many do we receive? National Dance Project has received in the last few years anywhere between I think we had 115 to last year we had 148. It varies, but around there is on average, I would say. Would an applicant be able to apply to both NDP and NTP? The answer is yes. For an interdisciplinary work, pulling from both dance and theater vocabularies could fit in either category based on one's perspective. Absolutely. This happens several times every year. The caveat is that you cannot receive both NDP and NTP. So if the application moves forward in both grant programs, and the National Dance Project makes award decisions before the National Theater Project. So if you were to receive NDP and your application is still in the pool for NTP, you would have to make a choice at that time to either keep your name in for NTP and say no to the NDP funding, or to take the NTP funding and pull your application from NTP.
That particular scenario is not super frequent. So I would say, I would go back to the original question, which is yes, you can apply to both programs. And National Theater Project will get into their, there's a lot of parallel eligibility, but there are some differences to our program. So I would certainly, similarly, if there's something that you're not 100% sure about if you're eligible within National Theater Project, I would reach out to Mina, Derek, or Kita just to get a heads up.
The one thing I would say about that, and this is Kita, is that to be very clear in each application why you are applying to that particular program. So if you're applying to both NTP and NDP, in your NDP application, be very clear about why this is dance. In your NTP application, be very clear why this is theater.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't just cut and paste ever with grants, but I'm kind of going to cut to the chase. Like I said, there's alignment, but they're not copycats. So definitely read and address the questions for each program separately.
Mm-hmm. And we do have grantees who have received funding from both programs over the years. So it is There's lots of crossover. And we've reached the end of those questions. So, and I actually forgot a slide here. I apologize. Just a little bit more on the organizational partner. And if we get this question quite a bit down here at the bottom, the organizational partner is not required to present the finished work at any time. Many of them do, but it is not a requirement on our end.
So this is our timeline now. So March 1 is the deadline. It is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which we are in right now. I sincerely encourage people to not wait until then to submit, and certainly don't wait till March 1 to start a form. Please start your form, be working on it, and try and submit it if you can, certainly by 5 p.m. because Kristen and I are here until 5 p.m. and we will try and help you, but we aren't here after that. So, and of course, Murphy's Law, that's when tech things happen, the little bad elves of tech. So please try and get your application submitted before then. In late April, we will notify, we have our first round panel meeting in late April, and in early May to late April, we will be notifying everyone by email first if you have been moved to the full proposal or second round. So we let everyone know by email so that you're able to make the decisions and things that you need to. If you are moved forward, we move about 36 projects to the final round. And these projects and artists are called finalists, and they are each paired with an NDP advisor who helps them with looking at their proposal, their full grant in terms of their budget, their work samples, their narrative questions, offer any kind of feedback or questions that might have arose out of the first meeting, and try and help them prepare, as well as the NDP staff, just the best proposal that you can. Those are due May 31st, 2019. And again, we have our meeting at the end of June, and we notify 20 applicants in early July that they have received the production grant.
And I actually just had this thought, maybe I should add this to this timeline in the future, but also in May, June, July, and all through the summer, Sherry and myself will be doing feedback calls for all applicants who are interested in receiving the panel's comments from their application. There's information about that in any email notifications that we send, how to contact us, how to schedule that. But we always offer applicant feedback.
And I just would add that reaching out sooner is probably, it's more helpful for you. Sometimes people wait until, they're coming into the next deadline to ask. And when we are reviewing notes from 9 months ago, it can be kind of hard for us to have full context for those comments. So if you can email us, and we try to get back to you within a month or two following the panel meeting, I feel like the information is much clearer and much more helpful for you.
So if some of you haven't noticed, we have a new website. Very lovely, hopefully much easier to find things. So now if you navigate to the National Dance Project production page, you see right here how you can access the application with that Apply Now button. Please only use that button if you have not yet started a grant application. If you have started one in this year, 2019, use the Return to Your Grant application button below it.
Otherwise, you're going to be continuing to start new forms, and you'll think, oh my gosh, why isn't it saving? Yeah. And it's just because you're getting a blank form if you hit the start a form. But so you want to hit the Return to Your Grant form, which brings you to the portal, the NEFA portal. So you create, if you haven't already, a username, which is your email address. So it's not a funky kind of username that you made up, but it is an email address that you're using. And you can create your own password. And then if you have been in our system before, you should be able to see any grant that you have submitted or been awarded, or any grantee report. If it's your first time, then that will be the only grant that is coming up. And then once you're through the portal, you see that, and then that way you would hit that form to edit it. So this is what the inquiry form looks like. And we just kind of keep encouraging everyone to, maybe every 20 minutes or so, please hit the green save button. If you are typing in your form, the form doesn't actually know that until you hit the save button. And so we really encourage you to take the narrative questions into a Word or Google Doc, work on them offline. But if you are working, and you're not actually hitting save, the information does not save automatically. So you have to save, and hopefully then you won't be frustrated.
Yes. And I'll just add, so our website just launched in January. Hopefully there are no hiccups lingering with that transition. If you run into any technical issues related to the website, let us know, be in touch. We will work with you. Additionally, we are in the process of upgrading our portal. So this is what the portal will look like through this year for this grant program. It might look different next year, and as things are happening on the back end, that may affect access to current programs. We are really hoping that it will not. Again, if you have technical issues, email us and we will help you through them, and we will not
Don't
hold
panic.
you.
Don't
panic.
Don't panic.
We'll work with you. So, moving on to the questions that will be included in the narrative section of the inquiry. This is not all of them. They didn't all fit on one slide. But these are the questions. And you can preview these from the website as well, so you don't have to open a new form to see them. But we ask that you please describe the proposed new work. How does this work contribute to the cultural and aesthetic diversity of today's dance field? Describe your development process and timeline. And by that, we mean the process of developing the work, not development as in fundraising. Just to clarify the definition of the word in this instance. Development process and timeline for this work, and if applicable, include brief information about any artistic collaborators that you're working with as well. You might not know all of them and they might change, and that's totally fine. Just anyone you have at the moment. Describe the audiences and communities that you want to reach and how you envision connecting with them, for example, through this work as part of the choreographic development, performance, touring, and or related activities. Continuing on.
So then briefly describe your relationships with the organizational partner named on the application and how they're going to help contribute to the development and the tour or the touring of this work. So again, just trying to reiterate that it is what the partner is doing for you. So if you say, hey, I'm going to teach 20 master classes and I'm going to go out and babysit all their kids and whatever, that doesn't, I'm just making a joke there. That is not what we want to hear is what they're doing for you to help with the work. So you know, yes, you might be teaching a class or a workshop or something, but it's really about how they are helping to support this.
And this last question here is new this year. And it is, we acknowledge that the people reviewing your applications are likely to have gaps in understanding or knowledge about the context for your work. Please provide your own definitions of excellence and success for this project and any other information you think would be important for the advisors to fairly assess your application. We understand that we do have 12 panelists. They are from a range of backgrounds in dance. They're from a range of geographies. We do try to encompass as much in those 12 people as we can, but we understand that they may not have knowledge or embodied experience of every expression of dance that is out there. And so we wanted an opportunity for artists to explain what success in this specific project would look like for you. Hopefully this will allow that. 2 quick questions that were asked. Do the characters include spaces for the narrative questions? Yes, so that would include the 1,500 characters, for example, is spaces and punctuation, and any special characters are included in that count. And then, is there any way to see feedback from applications a couple of years ago? Give us a call. We might have it. Depends on how long ago it was.
Yeah.
But we might. So we can work with you to track that down.
So we on to video work samples. Great. This is Sherry, and I deal with work samples a lot. I want to encourage you, so you have a total of 3 minutes that you can submit. I'm encouraging people to also recognize that our panelists are reviewing these on phones and tablets and all kinds of devices. So think about that when you are choosing your work samples. They're not necessarily being viewed on a large HD TV or anything. So, think about if they're very dark, if they're hard to see, and also just the size that they're being viewed on. They, again, you have 3 minutes. You can choose two different clips if you want to. I encourage artists to, again, to Kristen's earlier point, not every panelist is going to be familiar with every artist. So it's a good idea to show at least, I think, 1 minute of a clip of your definition of your work in a fully produced sense. So and that could be still fully produced, could be you did it at a site-specific place. It doesn't necessarily mean a theater, but you are answering the question of, can this artist do this? Do they have the capacity? So your one of the work samples might demonstrate your capacity to produce work in how, again, you define success of that. And then the other one, it may be if you have some good work in progress, footage, you're welcome to do that. But I do encourage you, again, to kind of look at it through the lens of, if it's a dark clip, if it's hard to see, will it resonate, I guess, is what you want to think about. Is it compelling? And I encourage people to perhaps have another set of eyes on the work sample. When we are looking at our own work, we kind of understand the context of it, and we tend to fill that in. So if you can have folks maybe who weren't at the performance, or who are not filling it in with other information, but they're just really looking at those submitted clips to see if it makes sense, if it resonates, if it's compelling. We are not accepting promotional videos or montages. That doesn't mean it can't be edited, but we're not looking for, the Vivaldi Four Seasons music in the background and seeing that there's 4 different dances and you're just showing leap and fall and catch and, boom, boom, boom. But we're actually seeing some development of an idea within the work sample.
How the form that you can submit those in. Vimeo changed some of their policies, I guess, in the last year or so. So it's not always possible to provide a Vimeo link for free. So we also accept Google Drive. You enter the link in the form. If it is a password protected link, that's absolutely fine. We totally understand you might not want your work out there on the internet for anyone to see. At this point in time, you can provide us a password, but please do ensure that you provide the password, because we are not always able to check every single link before we send these to the panelists, and they may encounter a link that is broken or without a password, and then it's just a fun little dance that we have to do to get that back to them, and it takes time. And also remember that if you're submitting, the link that you're submitting will be viewed for several weeks by the panelists. So try not to change access or change the link to that video in that time. Thanks. And I see there's a few questions that have been typed in. We'll get to those in just a minute. I see them. Not to worry.
Do you want me to address the work sample questions or?
Oh, there were work samples.
I think I saw one. One said about, so if you're a rep company and you are submitting the work of another choreographer, I think it's a good idea to definitely show the company that the grant would be going to. So you would want to show at least one work sample showing that. If you don't, and if they've worked with you previously, like if you have had a dance made by that choreographer on your company, that would be awesome. If not, then definitely show an additional sample of the choreographer's work. And I would say try to make choices that are somewhat in alignment, i.e. if your company's 10 people, just having a solo won't be so effective. So, you want to show that, or if you're applying for site-specific work and you're only showing working in a proscenium space, that's not going to help answer that question. So trying to meet kind of the expectations, I guess, within the work sample as much as possible. So showing us who the lead choreographer is and their work, and then also showing who the lead company is and showing us their work.
The next work sample question was about 3 minutes total, or if you're choosing 2 work samples, you can divide between the 2.
Yes.
So the panelists will not be watching more than 3 minutes of work per application. You can divide that up between 2 pieces. We don't recommend anything beyond that. So we don't recommend at this stage 3 1-minute clips, but you could certainly submit 2 1.5-minute or 1 2-minute and 1 1-minute. And also please, they don't have to be edited to be exactly a minute. If you have that capability, you're welcome to do that. You can also submit queue times, but please do submit those queue times because they will not watch more than 3 minutes. And we want them to be watching the 3 minutes that you want them to be watching. So submit those queue times. And if I'm submitting 2 different clips from one production, I think I just answered that.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Dance films as work samples, or does it need to be footage of a live performance? I'm not quite sure what is meant by dance film. It doesn't have to be a live performance. It can be rehearsal footage. It can be, I think maybe, I don't know what dance films.
I'm not quite sure, what you mean by a dance film. But I would say if the work sample should be supporting the application. And so again, you want to be showing the panel that you can create live work. There might be, it's possible that, along with this work that you're making, you might want to have a dance film made out of it or something else. But the fact is that this particular grant is for, at least a large component of it is for a new work to be performed live. And so I think that is you want your work sample to support your ability to do that.
Yeah. Hope we answered that. If not, we can absolutely talk online as well. So this slide here, and there's one more question I know we'll get to it in just a minute. But this is what happens if you are moved forward into the full application round. 36 from the March 1st deadline will move forward into the full application. It is invitation only. You'll be notified of your status in late April, hopefully, potentially a little bit into May, but not too long. It actually should be April this year, actually, because the deadline's a day earlier. So 36 are invited forward. You will be paired with one of the 12 NDP advisors who will work with you on development of your full proposal. They'll provide the feedback from the conversation on your application in the meeting that we will hold in April. They will read your narrative. They'll work with you on the budget, watch your video samples, provide recommendations. Potentially, they may be able to come and meet with you in person to see rehearsal or something live. And then they are speaking about your application to the full panel when the panel convenes in June. And they're able to provide insight to the conversations that you've had. Ooh, what's happening? There we go. Okay. So now we'll get back to some of the other questions. Let me scroll up really quickly to find one that I missed earlier. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Would it be an issue to have a collaborator on the team who had received the grant in the past 2 years? She's not co-creator, but is an essential collaborator on the piece.
No, that's fine. You know, especially if you or the company is the applicant, they can collaborate. That's fine.
Work is not yet developed enough at time of application. Can a video sample of a previous work be submitted? Absolutely. We totally understand that some of these pieces may actually have no movement at the moment. It may be very much in the ether still. So I would suggest submitting something that is in a similar vein of what you might be proposing.
And there is a space on the work sample form for you to address that. So there are lines about, why you're choosing this work sample or this selection. And you can go in a little bit into detail there why.
Mm-hmm. Is anyone available to schedule more one-on-one personalized feedback during the first round? I think you're referring to before March 1st. And I would say that yes, myself and Sherry are available to talk with you, answer questions that you have.
Just send us an email.
Bounce ideas off of. We do not sit on the panel. We do not make any of the funding decisions, but we have listened to quite a few of them.
So Kristen and I, our job is to try to help you do the best job you can do. And we are at the meetings and we take the notes and we listen to the conversation. No one at NEFA or the New England Foundation for the Arts or the NDP staff or the NTP staff, we do not vote. So we don't have a say in anything, but really we are just trying to offer the expertise and the knowledge and the listening that, we've heard various questions or things come up over the years. So we're kind of trying to say, hey, you might want to head this off, or I could see this being a potential question. Maybe you might want to address this. So that's kind of the thing that we can offer.
Yeah, and so this slide here has our contact info. It's also on our website, various places. In the very, very near future, there will be a third name here. Indira will be joining the team on March 4th. We're very excited. So not before the deadline, but she will be here very soon. I was going to say something else. I'm forgetting what I was going to say.
I don't know, but please reach out to us. Let us know. And I know, as I said, Kristen will be emailing the slide deck and the sound part of this to everyone who signed up for the webinar.
Yeah, there's a question here. Is it possible to watch this again? Yes, it might take a day or two to get it uploaded. So we're going to be putting this on YouTube so that it will also have, it'll have the, what is that called? Subtitles? Captions. Thank you. It'll be captioned and it'll be available for anyone to watch. So we'll be emailing that to you all once we have that available. Same with the theater webinar. So if you're not able to sit in on that one, but you wanted to, you'll be able to watch both. And I was going to say that, so Sherry and I will not be in the office this coming Friday, and NEFA offices are closed on Monday. But then we will be back, and we are here on March 1st, the day of the deadline, until 5 p.m. And pretty much for the most part, except for maybe a day or two in the time between now and the deadline, we are here basically 9 to 5, 9 to 6-ish to answer questions. Great. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Looks like that's all the questions.
And
all right.
And it's time to hand it over to our colleagues.
Signing off.
Bye.